Başlıyor. Başlıyoruz. Bilmiyorum ki Venom. Çocukça atlıyorum. Uzaylı dile, evet. Ne? O nasıl vırırır diye çevirirler.
Ooh. Oh, look! It's a book!
Maybe it's a book about pirates with a treasure map. No, I don't think
Kukla
so.
suçlu.
I wish that I had seen through all your lies. Oh, start from the beginning, not the middle. And so I decided to pick up my pen to relate the most disturbing episode of my life thus far.
It all began early one morning in 1898, when Sherlock Holmes invited me to accompany him on a visit to the Marquis of Conyngham.
Watson, my dear fellow, we can now go and inform the Marquis that we have found the Samoan necklace,
Evet,
and very
suçlu.
much faster than Inspector Baines, too, which pleases me.
Have you really solved the theft, Holmes? And so quickly?
I have indeed, Watson, and believe me, it was completely
Baksana bak.
unnecessary to spread out all over London, as our friend Baines thought was best. He likes to boast that his methods are equal to mine, but once again the outcome has contradicted him.
After all these years of accompanying you upon your investigations, I thought that by now I should be reasonably capable of following your train of thought. But in this particular case, I must admit that I don't understand
edemiyorum.
anything at all.
Arka plan.
Ah, you see, but you do not
Aha,
observe,
arka plan,
Watson.
ha.
There lies the difference. It is a matter of course.
A matter of course, in the middle of the
Pelin, hoş
night, when
geldin.
everyone is
Selam.
fast asleep, the service bell
Furkan,
within that room
Kıvrık, takip
rings out
ettiğin için
and
çok
alerts the
teşekkür ederim.
servants.
Hoş geldin.
They dress quickly and come running, but the door is locked and there is a strong smell of burning from within. A few seconds later, the master of the
Evren
house
Bayır,
himself,
takip
the
ettiğin için
robbed
çok teşekkür
Marchioness's
ederim. Hoş
husband,
geldin.
the Marquis of
Hoş
Conyngham,
geldiniz.
arrives and unlocks the door using the
Editere,
sole key.
Etere hoş
A
geldin.
fire has started inside the room, but they
Selam.
have managed to
Hoş
arrive in
geldiniz.
time to put it out. It is at that
altyazıları
moment
biraz
that the
kaçırdım.
Marquis realizes that the famous
Telefona
Samoan
bakarken.
necklace, which had been
Mayken,
safe
hoş
within its
geldin.
glass
Selam.
cabinet only a few hours earlier, has now disappeared.
In order to explain, let us confirm my theory before the arrival of Inspector Baines.
Ay, yalan. Ne? Ne saçma bir dönüştü. Niye böyle dönüyor? Başı alamıyoruz. Ama dur alalım bir dakika. Yeni değilim. Yeni dedik. şeyi hızlı geçeceğim. O en başı var ya, oraya. Burayı geçelim. Tamam.
Watson, my dear fellow, we can now go and inform the Marquis that we have found the Samoan necklace, and very much faster than Inspector Baines, too, which pleases me.
Have you really solved the theft, Holmes? And so quickly?
I have indeed, Watson, and believe me, it was completely unnecessary to spread out all over London, as our friend Baines thought
takip
was
ettiğin için
best.
çok teşekkür
He likes
ederim.
to
Hoş
boast
geldin.
that his methods are equal to mine, but once again the outcome has contradicted him.
After all these years of accompanying you upon your investigations, I thought that by
Tamam
now
da
I should
afiyet
be
olsun.
reasonably capable of following your train of thought. But in this particular case, I must admit that I don't understand anything at all.
Ah, you see, but you do not observe, Watson. There lies the difference. It is a matter
Watson.
of course.
A matter of course, in the middle of the night, when everyone is fast asleep, the service bell within that room rings out and alerts the servants. They dress quickly and come running, but the door is locked and there is a strong smell of burning from within. A few seconds later, the master of the house himself, the robbed Marchioness's husband, the Marquis of Conyngham, arrives and unlocks the door using the sole key.
Herkes
A
tatlı
fire
olmayı
has started
bekliyor.
inside the room, but they have managed to
Herkes
arrive in
ponçik.
time to put it out. It is at that moment that the Marquis realizes that the famous Samoan necklace, which had been safe within its glass cabinet only a few hours earlier, has now disappeared.
In order to explain, let us confirm my theory before the arrival of Inspector Baines.
Tamamdır. Ya böyle olduğu yerde döndü. Sinirim bozuldu. Niye böyle dönüyor?
This window was cut with a diamond, a clean, discreet piece of work. This is where the necklace was.
See how tiny the hole is, and not one fingerprint upon the window.
Bir saniye, ben klavyemi değiştirmeyi unutmuşum yine ve yine ve yine. Değiştireyim hemen 2 dakika. Fatih hoş geldin. O ya, oyunu kapattım galiba. Tamam. Yanlışlıkla oyun. Tamam. Tam böyle daha rahat. Ne? Yürür müsün? İyi. Yürümesi çok zor hissettiriyor. O ya. Ne diyor? Bununla daima iletişime geri girersiniz. Tamam. Ne? Bu ne? Niye saat tıklayınca çıktı direkt? Ha, konuşmalar burada. Haydi. Şu kenardaki şey çıksa keşke.
All the windows are locked. They've not been forced.
Boşa başlatmış. Evet.
A mark undoubtedly
Oraya
made by a
okuyabilirdik ve
diamond.
not.
Someone tried to cut the glass, but he was interrupted.
Therefore, the thief tried to escape through the window, but he was interrupted.
Tamam. Şömineye gidin, büyütecin üstüne bir resim resim. Şömine nerede ki? Ha. Ha, tamam. Teşekkür ederim haber verdiğin için, yani. Açıkladı. Besteleri kullanacakmışız.
I need something.
Bir şeye ihtiyacım. Büyüteç gel bakayım.
Let us examine the crumpled scores that have fallen off the piano.
Ay üf.
Nothing of interest here. Nothing of interest here. Nothing of interest here. Nothing of interest here. Nothing of interest here. These sooty prints were left by a tiny hand.
I don't understand why these music scores are covered with soot.
Böyle oynamam ben. Böyle güzel. Böyle güzel böyle. Karakterin daha hızlı hareket seçti. Tamam. Şey yapıyoruz. Ne yaptım az
Not
önce?
very well kept, this aquarium. I can see a dead fish floating on the surface. A candle. It must have fallen from the chandelier.
İşten önce sıfır. Evet. Chandelier.
These documents are not very interesting, even though they're addressed to the Minister of Maritime Affairs.
The Marquis himself.
Oo, baba. Şöyle. Bir daha yapalım.
Footprints. You are not going to get on your knees to examine them.
There is no need. It is soot. The servants must have trodden in it while they were putting out the fire. Strange. There are some objects here that have been knocked over.
The fire started here, just beneath the bell pull.
Whoever pulled the cord would have had his feet in the fire, unless it was pulled before the fire started. The chest wasn't opened. The necklace wasn't in it. Heading towards his chosen escape route, probably the window, the thief knocked over the stool, which then caught fire.
But why didn't he try to put the fire out at once?
Başka ne yapıyoruz?
When the servants arrived at the door, having been alerted by the bell, they saw evidence of the theft and the fire, but they didn't see the thief.
This
Hırsızı
door is very
görmemişler.
hard to force. The Marquis is the only person to have the key. The thief could not get out through here until eventually, when the door was opened by the servants.
This draft screen makes an ideal hiding place.
As the theft was committed at night, I conclude that the thief hid himself behind the draft screen and waited until he was alone in the room.
Şu şeyden benim de olsa keşke. Ne yapacağız? Konuşuyor musunuz? Gel bakalım. Ne? Çok mu hızlı yedin? Eyvah. Umarım birden iyidir.
What do you think, Holmes?
Let us search the room before the police get here. We might throw some light onto all this.
Üf. Başka nereye kaldık ki? Bunları şey yaptık. Okey. Burası da okey.
All the windows are locked. They've not been forced.
Afiyet olsun, afiyet olsun. Hoş geldin tekrar.
Strange. There aren't any prints. Yet I'm sure that the thief hid here.
Ah, Mr. Holmes, you're already here.
Good morning, Inspector. You've arrived just in time.
Scotland Yard arrives like the cavalry.
Tamamdır
always in the
Berk.
nick of
Teşekkür
time.
ederim geldiğin için. İyi dersler.
I know that satisfied expression, Mr. Holmes. Have you already solved the case?
It's possible.
We have retraced the thief's rather unusual footsteps. He is a true acrobat. But what I cannot understand is that when the servants entered the room, there was no one to be seen. An acrobat, perhaps, but an invisible one? I do not think so.
The only explanation is that the thief escaped before the servants arrived. I don't know how, but there is no other way.
Half a point for the doctor, nil for the inspector.
Sıfır
I'm
verdi.
pleased to see that you find the situation amusing, Mr. Holmes. Very well then, explain.
Dr. Watson was correct when he mentioned acrobatics, but he is mistaken about the nature of the acrobat. As for you, Baines, you're quite incorrect, as the thief was in the room when the servants entered.
Explain, for heaven's sake, Mr. Holmes.
Watson, how could a thief be missed in the middle of 8 men?
I don't know. Because he is very small?
Ay yalan
Stop teasing us,
kötüymüş.
Holmes.
Exactly. because he is small and remarkably agile.
You're thinking of a monkey?
And a trained monkey at that, without a doubt, a Leontopithecus rosalia from Central America. The animal had been hidden inside the room for several hours, calmly awaiting the signal from his master. Once night had fallen and the room was empty, a high-frequency whistle alerted the monkey that it was time to begin the procedure for which he had been trained. The monkey emerged from his hiding place and used the point of a diamond to open the glass cabinet and steal the necklace. He headed across to the window by the chimney, but knocked over the stool, which in turn knocked aside the fire guard and started the fire. The frightened monkey jumped from the chimney by swinging from the bell pull, thus alerting the house servants. He then went to the window and began to use his diamond to cut a hole, but was interrupted by the staff trying to gain entry via the door, and he panicked again. He ran across the piano, scattering the music scores onto the floor, before hiding inside the chandelier, knocking over a candle. Finally, the servants and the Marquis entered the room, leaving the door open while they put out the fire. It was during the confusion that our agile little thief made his escape through the doorway. As simple as that.
A brilliant explanation. Bravo, Holmes.
And the necklace?
Holmes dediğin de kaşı
I
oynadı
can see
yani.
it from here, my friends. It's right in front of us.
We have searched the room from top to bottom, Holmes. How were we unable to find it?
Because we paid insufficient attention to the only victim of this affair.
What victim? No one is dead?
Yes, Watson, a poor goldfish whose destiny was to die, crushed by one of the most precious necklaces in England.
The aquarium is just beneath the chandelier. I understand.
The little monkey had likely hung the necklace around its neck and lost it when he leapt from the chandelier. The jewels fell into the aquarium, where they remain now.
At cebine. Evet,
Marquis,
olan Japon
here is your
balonu
necklace,
olmuş.
intact, just a little wet.
Mr. Holmes,
Ne?
this brilliant demonstration does credit to
Adam
your
onu mu
reputation.
takıyor?
Thank you so much, Marquis. Do you wish to verify the authenticity of your jewel?
No, I recognize it. I've spent many hours admiring it, you know.
Good. I will return it to its box and...
Inspector, a bank has just been held up. You must follow me at once. Orders of Scotland Yard.
What times?
Sirs, duty calls. My regards, Marquis. And well done again, Mr. Holmes.
There, the necklace is in its box. We've lost enough time here. Let's go home, Watson.
Ah, very well, as you wish. A good day to you, Marquis.
With pleasure, gentlemen. And once again, thank you.
Ne tuhaf geçti birden. Hiç şey yok yalnız. Film gibi oynuyoruz oyunu.
This morning's newspaper. Holmes, have you read this article about you?
No, Watson, not yet, and I won't have time to.
Read it before you leave. It's outrageous.
If you insist.
Bilmem ki ısınma turları derken tamam. Şey gibi hissettiriyor. Önceki oynadığımız Sherlock Holmes var ya, düzen aynı burası falan şöyle. Ama şey gibi, bu ta 1900'lerde gibi, hani 1900'lerin başı gibi hissettiriyor. Ya da yok, 1800'ler mi desem bilmem, neyse. Şeyde 1900'lerde gibi. Diğeri de. Önceki bu ne? Seçenek. Odamıza girdik. Burada değişemiyoruz. Keşke değişsek. Bakayım. Kuşlara bakın. Minnoşlar. Ama biliyor musunuz? En uyuz hayvanlar bence kuş. Kuşlar bence. Kılık değiştirme yok. Değiştiremiyoruz. Bu odanın ne anlamı var o zaman? Bak gıcıklandım. Çıkıyorum. Duvardaki hanım. Kim? Bilmiyorum ki. Bilmiyorum, tanımıyorum. Haydi. Ne yapıyoruz? Ne ki bunlar? Neyse çıkıyorum. Dev olma. Bilmiyorum ki. Ohio, Phantom hoş geldin.
Read the paper, Holmes.
Koşuş. İren Adler. Ha. Tin tin tin tin tin tin. Paper oku diyor. Paper
Read the
oku.
paper, Holmes.
Allah. Neyle okuyacağız? Şununla mı okuyacağız? Neyle okuyacağım ben onu? Ha tamam. Sherlock Holmes, Cunningham markasının evinde tahkikat tam bir fiyasko. Dün meşhur dedektif Sherlock Holmes, kaybolan paha biçilemez Samoa kolyesinin tahkikat okuması zor. Esnasında alınan neticeleri takdim etmek üzere Cunningham markasının malikanesine davet edildi. Hanımefendi hatırlamış olmalı ki polisin dudak uçuklatan zenginlik karşısında afallamış şekilde çevredeki hırsızlık için hazır bulunmasınlardan dedektifi içeri davet etti. Biraz Türkçe tuhaf
Prince
sanki.
Woodville, French
Neyse.
culinary expert and bagpipe player, might be our next king. That's not so shocking, my dear fellow.
You know exactly to which article I'm referring, Holmes. How can Farley dare to tarnish your reputation like that?
You know, Watson, that wherever glory walks, jealousy is bound to follow. As for the forgery of the necklace, I suspect that we shall soon be enlightened in this regard. Come in, Inspector Baines, the door's open.
Ah, Mr. Holmes. How did you know I was here?
You are one of our rare visitors who avoids the second-to-last step of the stairs, which creaks dreadfully. And if I add the clinking of the handcuffs at your belt, to what do we owe the pleasure of your visit, Inspector?
Have you read that rag?
Bu paçavra okudunuz mu diyor. Ne yapıyor? Bu ne? Bana neden bunu seçtiriyor? Sherlock bir yere falan takip etmişler. Ay takip diyorum. Neydi? Davet falan etmiş. Onunla alakalı bir şeydi ama bilmem.
Inspector,
İftira.
can you explain this slander? Has the necklace of the Samoas really been replaced by a fake?
I don't know how the reporter got hold of the information, but it's true. About the necklace, of course. I wouldn't permit myself to question the integrity and honesty of Mr. Holmes.
The necklace is a forgery? Impossible! I saw the Marquis authenticated before my very eyes, before Holmes returned it to its place.
Mr. Holmes, the Marquis believes Osmond Farley's theory. I shouldn't be surprised if the reporter isn't behind all this slander about you. He's a freelancer, well known for his explosive and subjective articles. In any case, the Marquis assures us that you were the last person to have the necklace in your hands.
Let's return to the Marquis's house, Holmes. I'm sure that we'll have no trouble in taking apart this theory.
It is unnecessary. Such allegations collapse on their own, like one of Mrs. Hudson's soufflés. Let us leave the police to solve this problem and turn our attention to the matters in hand.
Perhaps you are right, Holmes.
Inspector, I assume that you have the fake necklace with you. It's why you're here. Your superiors would like me to examine it.
Indeed. They would like you to confirm or deny putting this fake in the box.
Can't that wait? I must go to the house of Lord Peregrine Maitland, the Bishop of Knightsbridge. And the Marchioness?
She is beside herself. Without the necklace, her marriage is compromised. It is the principal item of the young woman's dowry.
What a lovely marriage.
Ya Watson niye böyle? Ben Watson'a hep böyle bir uyuz olurum ama. Bu ekstra böyle bir tuhaf, agresif evet.
Holmes, forgive me for insisting, but don't you want to examine the fake jewelry?
Watson, I have an appointment, and it's out of the question that I arrive late.
It will only take you a couple of minutes. You really must quell the suspicions put forward in this appalling article. If you will allow me, Inspector?
Be my guest.
Very well.
Very well. Very well. Very well. Ne yapıyoruz şimdi? Gidiyoruz mu?
What do you think, Holmes?
Allah'ım ya. Şey biraz sıkıntı. Tuhaf dönüyorum.
I cannot leave now.
Ya. Ne yapacağım? Ha. Tamam.
This pearl is a different color. These 3 pearls are of poor quality. This pearl is too small. It is not in its place here. Too many defects. This necklace is a fake. This is nothing but a vulgar copy,
Kolaydı.
and at a glance it would appear that the forger has intended for it to be seen as such.
How could we have been fooled by such a blatant imitation? I don't understand.
Yes, how is it possible? Holmes, do you have a theory about this?
I have absolutely no
Atarlı
idea.
ya.
You insisted that I examine the necklace, and I have done so. Now it is important that I keep my appointment. I'm sure, Inspector, that you will throw some light on this affair.
Holmes.
You may accompany me,
Holmes.
Watson, if you care to do so.
Goodbye, gentlemen. I'll keep you informed as to my inquiries.
Goodbye, Inspector.
Tamamdır,
You
afiyet olsun
mentioned a
yazın.
bishop, didn't you? Are we going to his home?
Yes, the Bishop of Knightsbridge. I put his address on our map of London on my desk. Would you get it for me, please?
All right, Holmes.
Ya Watson niye oynuyorum ben? Şimdi ne yapacaktım?
And this is how my dear friend and colleague treats his clients' letters.
Oya.
General practitioner? That won't be of any use to me.
Bir oynar mısın yerinde?
Female anatomy. I should put this book somewhere else. Hospitals and dispensaries in London.
Tamamdır Phantom. İyi temizlenmeler. Burada bir şey yok.
Here is where I write my stories about Holmes's cases. And I've got work to do.
Yazacak diyor Allah'ım. Benim de yazacak şeylerim var biliyor musun Max? Bir sürü var.
Have you found my map of London?
Kendin bulamıyor musun? Allah Allah. Neyse bir dakika. Nereden bulayım ki?
The work table, where Holmes analyzes things.
Kızdırıyor. What is this? Toby nerede acaba? Haritası odasında mı acaba? Bilmem ki, odada yok gibi.
The harpoon that was used to kill Black Peter. A horrible murder. I have found your map.
Ya tam önünde ya. Tam önünde. Direkt oraya bastım ama. Yanlış mı yaptım
The
acaba?
police? Already? How did you know?
May we see the Bishop of Knightsbridge?
Yes. Yes, of course. But come in.
Vallahi. Hadi bir.
What has happened, Reverend?
What?
I don't know. It was last night, I think. I only just arrived, and I have made this macabre discovery. My God. How horrible. I haven't called anyone. How did you know that?
Holmes, look!
The Bishop, appallingly mutilated.
Trollemek
How
istedi
dreadful.
muhtemelen.
Mutilated. And killed. He was such a good man. How could
Ulan
anyone be
saçı
so brutal?
gitmez.
Look at him. He is barely recognizable now. How could any of God's children be responsible for that?
They were evidently unworthy children, Reverend. Now do please try to calm yourself and focus, because we will need your assistance. Do you have any idea as to the motive behind this?
I haven't had time to do an inventory, but nothing appears to have been stolen. And anyway, His Excellency didn't own anything of great value. I don't know what else I can tell you.
Note this down, please, Doctor.
Doctor? But you aren't the police?
No, Reverend. I am Sherlock Holmes, and this is Dr. Watson.
Sherlock
We are
Holmes.
here at the request of the Bishop.
In that case, I must ask you to leave. And not to touch anything. I must get in touch with the authorities without further delay.
Reverend, when the inspectors of Scotland Yard find themselves at a dead end, which they quite often do, I assure you, then they turn to me for help. If you will allow us to continue our investigation, then you shall have the answers to all of your questions.
Out of the question! I don't even know you! I'm going to call the police, whether you like it or not.
It would be better for everyone, Reverend, if you kept your temper. Watson, are you taking notes? This affair promises to be a complex one, therefore we must not overlook the slightest detail.
Yes, Holmes. I am keeping a meticulous set of notes. I have created a very clever deduction board. One thing we can be sure of at the moment is that this crime was not for gain. The Reverend has informed us that nothing valuable was stolen, and indeed it would seem that the Bishop had nothing of any worth to take.
Very good, Watson. Do continue.
Psikoposun değerli bir şey yoktu kasasında bile. Bu mudur? Bu mudur? Her şeyi şey yapalım. Yazmasa orada anlamayacağım. Sherlock'u kontrol ediyorsunuz. Yazmasa anlamayacağım gerçekten. Watson'ı taşlayalım.
This stove is filled to overflowing. The fingers have been crushed and violently struck. The fingers have been crushed and violently struck. The fingers have been crushed and violently struck. His forearms have been ripped. Pieces of skin have been torn off. What do you think, Watson?
I'd say that he was eaten alive. Yet I've noticed a curious degeneration of the skin tissue around the wounds. His stomach is covered in scratches. Quite evidently, they weren't made recently.
So, these wounds were not made by his murderers.
Ne? Kim tarafından açıldı? Yukarı bakamıyor muyum? Yukarı bakamıyor
The
muyum?
fingers have been crushed and violently struck.
Kuyulanıyor. Bu kadar
A
mı?
piece of rope
Heh,
that was used to tie up that poor man.
tamam. Tamam, başka ne? O ya.
His forearms have been ripped. Pieces of skin have been torn off. What do you think, Watson?
I'd say that he was eaten alive. Yet I've noticed a
Manyak
curious
ya.
degeneration of the skin tissue around the wounds.
Tuhaf konuşuyor. Çarpılmıştım. Olabilir, çarpılmış olabilir. Laferme hoş geldin. Daha var mı bir şey? Atlıyor muyum?
His stomach is covered in scratches. Quite evidently,
Bakamıyorum.
they weren't made recently.
So, these wounds were not made by his
Oynatmaya
murderers.
çalışacağım. Aa. Bu ne? Ha. Öf. Şimdi buraya bakacağım.
His chest has been lacerated, I would say, with a very sharp and fine blade. You can see by his expression that he suffered terribly.
His mouth is covered in blood, and I can make out strips of skin between his teeth. My dear friend, everything points to this man having gnawed at his own forearms.
That's unbelievable, Holmes.
Niye? Ha. Okey. Çıkar mısın? Ah, hala incelenecek bir şey var. Aa, burası.
His feet have been burned.
My first impression is that he wears a size 9 shoe.
You! But what does it matter, Holmes?
These burns are terrible.
Aha, parmak var orada.
A finger. Apparently it doesn't belong to the Bishop of Knightsbridge.
How dreadful.
Ya yorum yapma orada. Yorum yapıyor orada gelmiş. How
Something is
dreadful
missing
falan.
here.
Oh, yes? And what might that be?
His shoes. Watson, his shoes are missing.
Bir dakika, hala incelenecek neyi var?
A bottle of whiskey.
Ya,
I
adamı
can make out
inceleyeceğim.
fingerprints stained with
Sal
blood and dirt.
şişeyi. Sal. Heh. Ha.
These burns are terrible.
Ayakkabıyı şeyli yerinde yapacağım. Ha, onları tamam. Onları
This poor
attım.
man was tied just below the knees.
To stop him from walking, certainly, but mostly to free his feet.
My God, Holmes, this man was horribly tortured.
Senin onu yerine koymak lazım. Watson. Adamın asabını bozuyor. O ne?
A broken phial and blood near the neck.
What a strange smell. Phew. Chemical components, I think.
Sus sus.
A broken bottle of whiskey. However, the Bishop of Knightsbridge was known for his sobriety. It would seem that the brutes who tortured the bishop to death were intoxicated with alcohol.
There is blood on this paperweight. This paperweight was used to crush the victim's fingers.
Ne.
The picture of Peregrine Maitland, commander of the infantry brigade of Her Majesty's Guards at Waterloo.
The Bishop of Knightsbridge has the same name as his ancestor, an illustrious family.